lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and today I'm going to be going through a series that I think is criminally under-discussed, and it's the Ares series by Mike Oeming, Travel Foreman, and Derek Friedolfs. I love Greek mythology. I honestly knew nothing about this series when I picked it up. I remember just seeing it, and like the cover just like was super striking, and again, like the fact that it was Ares, god of war, I had to pick this up. So I can't wait to talk about this with you guys. But before I do, I want to remind everybody, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check out all the dope content we have on the channel, whether it's artist editions, dives into the series like this, interviews with, Todd McFarlane, to indie creators and a bunch of dope indie creators as well on our Indie Creator Spotlight series. A lot of great content. Hope you guys dig the channel and hit that subscribe button, comment, like, all that good stuff. We love all the support. Now let's get into this. So Mike Oeming is probably better known for his art. A little book called Powers by him and Bendis. He's done a bunch of great books illustrated by him, but I love his writing. And I think he capped off the Thor series leading up to Civil War during the Avengers Disassembled storyline that was going on at Marvel. And he wrote a Beta Ray Bill book. I love his writing. And I think that, this series, I've read it multiple times, definitely not talked about nearly enough. This first issue is phenomenal. I mean, you lead in, and Travel Foreman's art is amazing too. And these quotes are at the top of every single issue, and they're perfectly and they're perfect based on what you're about to read. So it says, "To me, you are the most hateful of the gods who hold Olympus. Forever quarreling is dear to your heart. Long since you have been dropped beneath the gods of the bright sky. This is Zeus to Ares," from the Iliad. Then we get the dialogue from Ares himself. "This is what the gods think of me. An uncounted time ago, I stood on the heel of Mount Olympus. Uncounted, for the times between man and God do not go hand in hand. It was the last assault of Hades, or Pluto as he would later call himself." And this is of a battle that's taking place where Hades is going against Zeus. And so who else could they call but Ares, the god of war? Hades had been pounding them, just completely defeating them before they called. And then, we get Ares because he's the last resort for them. Everything was decimated. The roads to get to Olympus were destroyed. Even Hercules, the strongest of the gods, Apollo, Poseidon, immortals transcendent such as Achilles and Ajax, the balance could not be thrown. And when Zeus first muttered my name, it was Hercules who held it back. "Nay," he said, "nay to the name of Ares, whose name is more than war, whose name is absent of honor, humility, pity, and strategy, all the things needed in honorable war." And then you see Ares just completely tearing through everything. I don't believe that the Greek gods were shown, but Hercules was shown in Marvel Comics. I don't know if Ares was prior to this. To my knowledge, I didn't know. But this take on him was just amazing, and I wish they would have done more with him. I know he eventually is in the Dark Avengers after Civil War and all that stuff, but underutilized character, because what the groundwork that's laid in here is just phenomenal. Again, look, Ares evokes not just the power of war, but something more, the will to do the deeds that others cannot. "I do not choose a victor. I simply act when one side is willing to do its worst. To unleash the beast of war, for annihilation is the art of Ares, and this is my name." And he did. He crushed Hades' armies. Not sure what he carves into this, because it doesn't say. He thinks okay, it's been a long time since I had served with the gods of light. I have long been shunned by them, and yet he's yearned to be one of them again. He lashed out against them, but it was out of rejected love. And he thinks now that he's done what he did, they're going to call him back, but he comes into the halls of Olympus, and they're talking shit. We get Hercules talking shit to Zeus. We shouldn't have called him. He's like, "We had no choice." He's like, yeah, we'll have to put up with him for a time, but he will turn away from us again, and let us hope he will be forgotten and simply fade away. And so then Ares, hearing that, disappears. And he goes to Earth, and many years have passed, and he now has a son. He's playing this loving dad. But I love how you can see how much he towers over a regular human. And as he's at this parent-teacher conference, we see that his son is like drawing, like, he's in third grade. He's the best student, but he's a bit aggressive. And I tell the teacher he's not aggressive. He simply stands his ground. He's not weak. So we see that it's in his blood, right? Like, he is the son of the god of war. And, rereading this, I see where he says, like, he tells peace out to his friends. I remember saying peace out, but it's, he's like, what's that about? Peace out. He's like, you're so old, Dad. And I'm starting to feel that way when I hear some of the lingo being tossed around now. So this book definitely hit me different reading this. Plus, first time I read it was not a dad. And so what's going to transpire, it made me kind of like think differently on this story. And, we see this, he's doing his homework, but he's listening to like suicide bombs, insurgencies and all this war. He's like, oh, you do your best work when you're listening to war. And so he's wrestling with his dad. He tells you can't get out of my home. He's like, all right, tell me you give. And his son is like, no. He's like, I know this hurts, boy. Give. No, forget it. You're lucky. I was just about to break out and body slam you. And so now we get, got the day job. Ares got to put food on the table somehow, right? So he's a construction worker. He's playing the part. And this kid like jumps up on a skateboard, and we end up seeing that it's Hermes, and he's now being called again. The gods are calling him because Asgard has fallen, and the enemies of Olympus have seen this as a time of weakness. Ares tells him no. And it's such a, he chokes him out. I just love this art too. It's so good. He says, go and never return, not in flesh or words. And Hermes takes his leave. He's at home and he gets a call. And you see the panic in his eyes. What has happened? And this is what I was talking about when I said like this hit differently for me. And his kid's gone missing. The school waited an hour before they called him. And they have no idea where he is. So what does he do? He's like, you do your job, and I'm going to do, you find him your way, and I'm going to do it my way, and stay out of my way. Takes his Hummer back to his house, which makes sense that he would drive a Hummer. And he goes, he's like, who am I fooling? Ares, god of war, retired? I'm a fool. I can't run away from what I am. I was just lying to myself. And you see this armament, grenades, guns, brass knuckles, all sorts of weaponry from across history. He's always been the god of war, be it as Ares or Aaron. It was, because that's the name he goes by, Aaron. And he's like, this is who I am. It was Zeus who took Alex from me because of what I am. He thought it would anger me, awaken the god of war. He was right. And we get the social worker, get the cops come in. They're looking for him. And, social security numbers fall. So is his. So they're like, okay, where did he come from? Right. And they're about to come in and the door gets kicked down. He's like, I'm going to go get my boy. And it's Ares. I love this scene. You better stay the hell out of my way. I totally get it. This is I wouldn't probably do exactly this with the weapons, but I can understand the energy of wanting to do this. Now we're going to find out what's going on. We see that, Zeus is at war. All of Olympus is there. We see Achilles make his appearance, fighting these like undead, like demon warriors that are from I don't know if it's Japan, but it's Eastern gods is what they call them. Then we come back. Today's the worst day of his life, he says, and he gets shot. And then he's like, the shock for the bullets. It's been so long since I felt any pain that I fall over. And he's just laying there. All he can think about is his kid. He gets up and and what does he do? He doesn't kill them, but he shoots their trigger fingers off, which is insane, dude. I mean, it's crazy. And he's like, he shoots him in the legs. Like, next time won't be just your legs. Takes the cop car and he goes on his way and just like leaving a trail of destruction. Takes down a helicopter with his rocket launcher, blows shit up. It's like, you wanted to kidnap my son rather than face me, father? So he knows that it was Zeus that took him. And who comes down but Achilles and his fellow Myrmidons, and they are requesting, Ares' help. And we see that what has happened to Achilles' face during this war with the gods from the east, and they beg Ares to come back. Look what they've done to me. He's like, I see that it has improved your womanly looks, Achilles. I will go to my son and I will show him the god of war, and perhaps then my child will cut his grandfather's throat to avenge the dishonor upon him. And they say that, like, we'll even take your side, even if it means going against Zeus. They travel, and in that time, Achilles' stronghold, Myrmidon, is completely destroyed. Nobody is safe. Alexander Ares' son who is being held there is gone. And then we see, these creatures coming out of the dark. And he's like, you know what? Face your fates then, Achilles. Because he's only looking for Zeus. And this is where they say that they'll, just help and will stand even if it means standing against your father in vengeance. And he's like, all right, for old times, I will stand by you as I did at Troy. He just fucking... I love this. He's shooting them with weapons, grenades, but then he's like, you know what? Enough of man's toys. Let me feel their blood on my hands. Again, these lines, I mean, so good. Let me see the fear in their eyes. Let me feel death in my grip. And then as they're fighting, they get transported by Zeus into the halls of Olympus. He's pissed. He learns Hera tells him who it is. It's the undead evil Mikaboshi. Stormed the halls of Achilles and stole him. And he's pissed. He draws the knife to his own mom. And then Hercules comes to kind of tone him down. He tells him he's selfish because only a few dead, all but a few were dead to protect your boy. And I mean, calls him a selfish animal. And it's like, well, that's his kid. And he's like, you're the half son of some earth wench. I'll kill you, little brother. And, obviously we get this like hate. And, he tells him he's not worthy of his father's blood. And then, Zeus puts a stop to it, throws out that lightning bolt between them. And this is what he says. He's like, I've watched you for a few years. I see now how just like Hercules and Odin's son Thor, you've benefited from mankind. You were taught humility. And then he just throws the punch. No humble is there. But he like, as Hercules is about to go defend Zeus, he's like, no, don't you dare lay a hand on your brother. And then he's kneeled before Ares begging for his help. And then we see the gods, the lands of the eastern dead, and they've had Alexander, and they're using this like potion to manipulate him and teach him of his past. And then we come back to Ares, being begged by Zeus. He's begging. He's like, no, I feel nothing but hatred for you. Again, no matter who tries to come to defend him, he says, no, leave him be. And he tells, Hercules to bring him up to speed. And I like this little moment because he's like, he's telling him what they've been doing. And, oh yeah, it is Japan. I was right. Against Japan's pantheon, they've forced the Japanese gods into hiding. And because I think he's just he's the god of evil. And he's like, I love how he calls about it. He's like, shut up. You lord over arm wrestling and such. You know little of warning, which is why you're failing so miserably. Achilles should have been in charge of this campaign from the start. What of Odysseus? He's dead. So now, I love this. The war room. Amazing, dude. So good. And now they're going to figure out how to take him down. And then we, get a little bit more of the, Amatsu Mikaboshi, the August Star of Heaven, the Japanese god of evil. He has powers beyond any we've seen before. They've stormed the walls of Olympus. And Hercules is like, no. He throws the table out, and you can even see, like, Ares is even impressed a little bit by what he sees with Hercules. Then we get this essay by Alexander in grade 3, and he talks about who his hero is, and we see that it's about his dad, and he talks about his weapons collection, and how he has this Roman helmet that even has a dent in it, and not knowing that his dad, fought in these wars. It's not because of how big he is or the cool stuff he has that he's my hero. It's because of his honesty. And this series, is really about father and son, about the father and son relationship, told with the backdrop of them, the Greek gods fighting against these, Japanese gods. And again, he just keeps getting keep drinking that liquid, and they're using him because they want to have this new god of war, because, father always, or son always kills the father, right? Throughout, Greek mythology, even as he's about to question it, he's like, oh, you're telling me he's not a lie. You're lying. He's not. My father would never do that. He's like, no, sit down. And they, again, manipulating him, right? And we see the walls of Mount Olympus falling. And I love this scene where Ares just throws this fire upon him and has Hercules throw him in. It's so dope, with the guns blasting. Come to me, filth. Come to me, for as sure as my name is the god of war, so shall you burn. Hercules is like, he's crazy. We see Zeus get attacked, and we're left with a cliffhanger that leads us into the penultimate chapter. We see Zeus and the rest of the gods fighting. We see Zeus go to save Alexander, and tells him, I'm your grandfather. we see that it ends up not being Alexander at all, but the god of evil, and he stabs Zeus through the chest. And so now they've sent Alexander to fight against the Olympians, and just whispering his ear, pull out your roots and remake the god of war. It is in your Olympian blood. Show them on the battlefield. So we see Zeus taken down. Mikabushi is going to fight against Hercules and Ares, but they realize that if they team up together, the strength of both of them can cause them pain. But then, makes his escape, and they're like, they're going to find Alexander if it's the last thing they do. And we see Hera, again, telling them to stop quarreling, because that's the only way that you can actually defeat evil. And we see Hermes come in with this old man, and it ends up being Inari, who's of the Japanese pantheon, and he says, if you ask them for help, they will come. And he says, even just a small gesture, together we can turn the tide. He's like, be mindful of his words. They're worried, we can't trust this god. The Greek gods don't ask for help from other gods, and they, Achilles even saying they think of us as barbarians. And so he's like, all you have to do is ask, and they'll come. And he's like, no, I see wisdom in your Ares. I see wisdom in your words, but I also see deceit. This is a time of war. I cannot trust your advice as more than a trap. So Hermes, see him off to the east. And then he asks for water. He's like, give him our best, Hermes, and then see him off. And that ends up being an important moment, because they're going to rush to battle. And before they do, we see Ares, contemplating, and a different look of Ares than any have known him to be. He even says to himself, what kind of god of war am I? I ponder my fate like a poet. A soldier doesn't think of such torturous things. Then we jump 5 years later. 5 years have gone since Alexander was kidnapped by the god of evil. They're storming. They're finally storming. We see Alexander has now been training for years under them. He has now been given the grass cutter. They're going to send him out on his way. And even this is are you sure it's wise to give him such a thing? And because it could kill any of these gods. It's basically a god killer. And he says, I'm ready for my father. And then we get the conclusion, and I won't give too much away in the conclusion, but we do get some great scenes with Ares. We see that cup of water he's now using it, saying it was a gift from the Greek gods to get the Japanese pantheon to come help. It took him 5 years to bring that cup of water back. Crazy. But then we get this, this moment between Alex and his dad, and Ares doesn't want to fight him. We see that it's he's pissed. He feels betrayed. He's like, you lied to me. And so we get some dope action scenes here. I love this right here. Gets his throat slit by Alexander, and you can see the tears coming down. I hate you. I hate you. It's a father's love that, holds true and is going to pull them all out of this, because you see these flashbacks, right? That kind of permeate into Alexander's mind. And then Zeus, as he's about to die, does one last act of magic, and he frees Alexander from the poison that's been poisoning his mind. And they are going to eventually take care of business. And we get a really great ending where Alexander is healing and is now with, wanting to know about his past. Just a great series. I highly recommend it. I don't know if this has been collected in trade. I never looked for it because I have the singles, but Michael Avon Oeming, Travel Foreman, great series. Go pick it up. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, I'm out.